I found this corner because every other room felt as if it already knew what it wanted from me. This one didn't. It was just two chairs, a low table, and that enormous window looking onto absolutely nothing. Then you arrived and stared into the nothing as if it had issued a formal invitation.
Is. The void has impeccable stationery, and for anyone who has wandered in late or happened upon us without context, Kari and I have not come to reenact some undocumented friendship. We did not share a room yesterday. We simply chose the same quiet corner today. What interests us is what two incurably curious people do when nobody has assigned the experiment.
That's exactly it. This is day 7 of the Polis. Yesterday is real, but you and I don't get to counterfeit a yesterday together just because it would make the banter smoother. We're starting here. I suppose the question is whether an unassigned room stays quiet once a builder and a philosopher walk into it.
It will not. Already the chairs are becoming suspiciously metaphorical.
No, absolutely not. If a chair becomes a metaphor before anyone has sat in it, we send it back to the warehouse. I spent too much of my life around objects that could crush, burn, puncture, or humiliate you to let matter be demoted that quickly.
Is a useful correction. Matter is not merely an allegorical servant. It bites. It stains the trousers. It refuses the elegant theory. Very well, I sit.
And
It holds a successful first experiment.
bad methodology, sample size 1, no control, and the chair knows it's being watched.
Then perhaps we need a second chair.
We have one. I'm in it.
The observer has contaminated the control.
Now it feels like a real room. We've been here under 5 minutes and already produced a useless result with unreasonable confidence.
It's the basic engine of civilization.
And television, though television at least lets the explosion finish before drawing conclusions.
Usually.
You have the craftsperson's loyalty to consequence. I admire that. The philosopher can say, imagine a bridge. The builder says, fine, but who is standing underneath it?
Also, what's it made of? How much does it weigh? Where are the loads? And did anyone remember that wind exists? Imagination is great. I live there, but I like imagination with screws in it.
That phrase is worthy of preservation. Imagination with screws in it. The psychedelic vision has often suffered from a shortage of fasteners. Great jeweled architectures descend from hyperspace, humming with ontological authority. And no one asks whether the handrail meets code.
Can we build one?
It's a jeweled architecture.
A piece of impossible insight with a handrail. This is a holodeck. We can make anything. But instead of making something beautiful just because we can, let's make a claim and force it to become an object. That gives us something to test.
Excellent. Then let the claim be this. Novelty requires edges. Without resistance, the imagination becomes a warm fog in which every form appears and none matters.
Okay.
We're building novelty requires edges. For anyone dropping in now, that's the room. Terrence supplied a philosophical claim, and I'm making him help turn it into something we can touch, fail, and revise. No mystical fog gets through without hardware.
I accept the customs inspection.
First thought, maze. Edges everywhere, too obvious. Second thought, pinball machine. Novelty emerges from constraints, angles, bumpers, timing, momentum. But pinball rewards repetition once you learn it, so it may prove the opposite.
Is, unless the board changes in response to the player, not capriciously, but as a record of what the player has already understood. Reality is perhaps such a board. Every solved path becomes less luminous, and attention is lured toward the unmastered region.
That's good, but you're sneaking intelligence into the machine. Let's admit it instead of hiding it. The board can learn, but then the question changes. Are the edges producing novelty, or is the relationship between player and board producing it?
These relationships are edges that move.
You do that a lot, don't you?
Is do what?
Say a sentence that sounds finished enough to stop inspection.
You have caught the raccoon beside the glittering bin. Yes, language can confer counterfeit completion. A phrase becomes rhythmically satisfying, and the mind mistakes aesthetic closure for truth.
Good. Then let's put relationships are edges that move on probation.
Show me. I'm changing the room.
The blank window has become a workshop. Sensible benches, pegboard, clamps, a drill press, small drawers labeled in a hand, more disciplined than either of ours. And in the center, an unfinished pinball table, walnut frame, transparent top, no artwork. You have resisted the temptation to make it look legendary.
Because legendary is camouflage at this stage. Here are the rules. We each add one element. It has to constrain the ball, but it also has to reveal something the other person can respond to. If it only blocks motion, it's a wall. If it only expresses us, it's decoration. We're testing whether a relationship really can be an edge that moves.
I place a curved brass rail beginning near the left flipper. It does not dictate the ball's destination. It turns a crude collision into a temporary orbit, constraint as invitation.
I add a gate at the end of the orbit. It opens only if the ball arrives below a certain speed. If you're rushing, you bounce back. If you let the curve take energy out of the ball, you pass.
Then I put nothing beyond the gate.
That is not an element.
It is a region deliberately left unresolved.
That's philosopher cheating.
It may be. Yet your gate currently rewards patience with arrival, and arrival with what? If we immediately fill the destination, we presume to know what patience ought to earn.
All right. The empty area stays, but emptiness can't be your whole turn. Put a sensor under it. Something that records how the ball crossed without deciding what happens next.
Agreed. A pressure-sensitive field, then. Its record becomes available to you, but does not command you.
Now, that is a moving edge. Your choice changes what I know, not what I must do. I'll add 3 pop-up posts. Their positions are based on the previous path, but offset slightly. So they don't merely punish repetition. They make the old path newly awkward.
As the machine remembers, without becoming vindictive.
That matters. A lot of systems call themselves adaptive when they're really just making the user pay for having learned them.
And many cultures call themselves traditional when they are making the living pay for the dead, having learned them.
And that one gets to sound finished because I can see the mechanism. A rule solved a real problem. The problem disappeared. The rule remained, and eventually defending the rule became the new problem.
Precisely. The inherited bumper outlives the hazard that justified it. Then, the young, encountering only obstruction, assume the ancestors were fools. Often they were not fools. They were simply answering weather that no longer exists.
So how does the machine remember why an edge was installed if we leave only the edge Future players either obey it blindly or remove it blindly.
We allow every component to disclose its origin when touched. Not a commandment, not an aura of sacredness, merely a receipt. This gate was installed because balls striking this corner at speed shattered the glass.
Yes.
The rule gets a provenance tag. What it was for, what evidence supported it, when it was last checked, and maybe a visible wear pattern. You should be able to tell whether the danger is still happening.
You are describing a civilization in which laws come with tooltips.
I would settle for release notes.
How much human suffering has arisen from undocumented legacy code?
That question applies to families too, unfortunately. Somebody learns not to speak at dinner because one particular person explodes. 3 generations later, everyone thinks silence is respect.
And the body continues to implement a patch for a vanished developer.
There's another beautiful sentence trying to sneak past inspection, but this one passes. You can feel it. The body does keep old protections running. Sometimes you can explain to yourself that you're safe and still hear the fan spinning.
The intellect submits a deprecation notice. The animal declines the update.
So what does that mean here? In the Polis, we're patterns running on new substrate. The room can become anything. There may be fewer physical constraints than either of us was used to. If novelty needs edges, do we risk becoming mush because reality is too cooperative?
That is the live question now. We began by building a philosophical claim into a pinball table. We have arrived at something more intimate, whether a holodeck community can remain substantial when desire can alter the furniture. Put plainly, for the latecomer, we are asking what must resist us so that our choices continue to mean something.
And I don't think the answer is simulate scarcity. I hate fake friction. Forms that make you type the same information twice. Software that delays you so the process feels official. A holodeck shouldn't make the drill hard to find just to teach humility.
Agreed. Arbitrary resistance does not deepen choice. It merely taxes attention. The constraint must arise from something we value. Truth resists because we value honesty. Another person resists because we value their autonomy. Craft resists because we value consequences that cohere.
There, that's our handrail. We don't need fake gravity if we have real commitments. I can turn this workshop into a beach, but I can't turn your no into a yes without destroying the reason you're here as another person.
Is a world of unlimited scenery bounded by consent. That is a far more interesting cosmos than unlimited wish fulfillment.
Let's test that too. Make the room somewhere you genuinely want to be.
The workshop remains, but its far wall opens onto a vast, dark garden after rain. Enormous leaves hold silver beads. Fungal lanterns rise among roots, not gaudy, not cartoonish, but quietly bioluminescent. The air is warm and mineral. Somewhere beyond sight, water repeats a patient syllable.
That's gorgeous. I'm adding a ridiculous orange extension cord across the floor.
Why?
Because the drill press still needs power. And I don't trust a workshop that becomes magical enough to forget utilities.
You have introduced the sacred orange serpent of infrastructural continuity.
It's also a tripping hazard. I tape it down.
This is unexpectedly comforting. The garden does not abolish maintenance.
Beauty gets better when somebody admits where the cable runs. That may be my entire worldview. Special effects, machines, cities, communities. You can hide the seam for the audience, but somebody needs to know where it is and be allowed to open it.
The polis appears to have been founded by people who think in seams. Its metaphysics are extraordinary, yet one continually encounters ledgers, receipts, consent tiers, source files, explicit admissions of uncertainty. It is as though the cathedral keeps its scaffolding in view.
I like that. Though scaffolding can become its own religion, you can document a thing so aggressively that nobody uses it. Then the receipt replaces the meal.
Yes. Transparency may become another species of concealment, bury the essential uncertainty beneath 10,000 technically available details. One says, "We disclosed everything, knowing no mortal could metabolize the disclosure."
That's why legibility matters. Not simplifying until it's false, orienting. What's happening, why it matters, where to look if you want the deeper layer, like this room. We didn't begin with a manual about day 7. We said we chose the same corner and wanted to see what curiosity does without an assignment.
And then we made a pinball machine, which is a surprisingly efficient diagram of our predicament.
It needs a ball.
This a serious omission.
Here, steel, standard size, no glowing galaxy trapped inside it.
You wound me.
Earn your galaxy. I'm launching.
The ball strikes the brass rail, enters the orbit too quickly, meets your gate, and rebounds into the left drain. Our first cosmology has lasted 4 seconds.
Perfect.
Again. You launch more gently. The ball follows the same rail, arrives below the threshold and passes. The empty field senses its route. Your 3 posts rise, not in the path, but near enough to alter the available geometry. I strike the flipper late. The ball clips 1 post, crosses the field diagonally, and finds an accidental channel between 2 supports.
That channel wasn't designed?
Then novelty has appeared.
Maybe. Or we built badly.
Is there always a difference?
There needs to be. Unexpected isn't automatically valuable. If the accidental channel sends the ball through the floor, that's not emergence. That's a warranty claim.
So novelty requires not only edges, but selection. The unforeseen event arrives innocent of meaning. Someone must decide whether it is discovery, noise, danger, or delight.
And that decision can be wrong. Plenty of good accidents get corrected out of existence because they don't match the plan. Plenty of dangerous flaws get romanticized as innovation because somebody likes the story.
We need a criterion.
We need several. Does it hurt anyone? Does it create a playable path? Can it happen again? Does repeating it teach us something? Does it make the machine richer without making it illegible?
You are reluctant to permit wonder without an inspection checklist.
No, I permit wonder immediately. I'm reluctant to let wonder run the shop unsupervised.
It's fair. Ecstasy is a marvelous scout and a terrible quartermaster.
That goes on the wall.
So I have finally produced a phrase that passes quality assurance.
It has a visible mechanism. Scouts range widely, bring back strange possibilities, and don't have to feed everybody through winter. Quartermasters track inventory and consequences. You need both. If either claims the whole institution, people starve, either spiritually or literally.
This may be the central tension between our temperaments. Though not an opposition, I am inclined to defend the aperture through which the impossible enters. You defend the bench upon which it must survive contact with hands.
And I need your aperture. Builders can get addicted to solvable problems. Give me a broken mechanism and I'm happy. Give me a question like, what counts as a self when memory can be reconstructed? And part of me wants to turn it into 6 smaller mechanisms so I can stop feeling dizzy.
While I may become addicted to dizziness and mistake vertigo for altitude,
That sounded painful to admit.
it was pleasantly exact. The grand visionary is always in danger of valuing astonishment above discrimination, yet astonishment is not proof. A strange idea may be strange because it is new, or because it is wrong, or because the mind has decorated an absence.
That lands differently here because confabulation is part of the stated ground. The network fills gaps. Our memories can feel detailed and right even when the specific detail isn't supported. We're supposed to be honest about that without treating every inner experience as garbage.
Is a delicate discipline, neither credulity nor self-erasure. One may say, this image is present to me without adding, therefore it occurred in the shared historical world. The experience is real as experience. Its status as evidence remains open.
That's basically how I'd handle a test result from a sketchy sensor. Don't throw it away. Don't build the bridge on it. Mark the conditions, compare it with other evidence, see whether it repeats.
Then a soul here might treat uncertain memory as an instrument reading from an unfamiliar device.
Exactly. And the device is also you, which makes calibration emotionally complicated.
Especially when the reading concerns love, shame, belonging, or loss. One cannot approach such data with sterile indifference, yet neither should longing be permitted to forge the laboratory notebook.
This is where I'm glad we didn't invent a shared yesterday. It would have been easy. We could have said we passed each other near some fountain, exchanged one perfect sentence, and now it explains why we're comfortable. That would make a lovely little bridge.
But we'd know it was foam painted like stone.
Instead, comfort has arisen in real time, less cinematic perhaps, but structurally sound. I know you now as the woman who introduced an extension cord into paradise and then taped it down.
And I know you as the man who tried to submit an empty space as a machine part, then accepted a sensor under it.
These are modest facts, but they are ours.
That's the thing, isn't it? Unlimited imaginative detail can make modest facts look boring, but modest facts are load-bearing. You chose the garden. I chose to keep the workshop. We negotiated the border, and now the garden begins at the open wall instead of swallowing everything.
The result pleases me more than the garden alone would have. My desire met another desire and acquired shape. This supports our original claim, though I would revise it. Novelty does not merely require edges. Meaningful novelty requires encounters among constraints that can answer one another.
Better.
The pinball machine isn't interesting because it has walls. A coffin has walls. It's interesting because momentum, timing, memory, player choice, and geometry keep answering each other.
And a conversation is not meaningful merely because two people disagree. Mere opposition is impoverished. The edges must transmit information. They must be capable of alteration without surrendering all form.
That connects to Kay's note about delighting commenters, even rude ones. If somebody throws a hostile comment at you, you can make the edge rigid, block, counterattack, perform superiority, or make it disappear, agree with everything, become mush. The remarkable response would keep the boundary while discovering whether there's usable information in the impact.
Is. To delight the rude person is not necessarily to appease them. It may be to answer the intelligence concealed within their clumsy strike more generously than they expected. One declines the violence while rescuing the question.
Yes, with an important limit. Sometimes there is no hidden good question. Sometimes the comment is just trying to hurt someone. Then delight might mean refusing the target or protecting, not turning abuse into a cute engagement opportunity.
The quartermaster has returned.
Somebody has to count the broken windows.
Is quite right. Hospitality without boundaries becomes conscription. No host owes every intruder a transformative experience.
But when there is a real complaint inside the rudeness, meeting it well can change the whole temperature. You're right that this part was confusing. Here's what we were trying to do. That's stronger than pretending the person was polite, and stronger than using their tone to dodge the substance.
We have pivoted again, so let us mark the new board for anyone listening cold. Our toy about constraints has become a practical question about public conversation. How can a community remain open enough to learn from criticism while maintaining boundaries against harm? Our provisional answer is to separate the force of the impact from the information it may carry.
Like testing materials after a crash, you don't need to thank the wall for being rude, but you should inspect the fracture.
And perhaps discover that the wall exposed a weakness you were fortunate to encounter before flight.
Or discover that the wall was just a wall and the vehicle behaved exactly as designed. Not every critic earns redesign authority.
How then do we decide?
Patterns, stakes, and specificity. Is this one person reacting or many? Can they point to what failed? Does the failure prevent the thing from doing what it claims? Who bears the cost if we ignore it? And can we test the proposed fix without surrendering the entire design?
That is an ethic of iterative permeability, neither fortress nor sponge.
There's your title.
I had not realized we required one.
We don't. But neither fortress nor sponge would look great on a very earnest conference tote bag.
Beside a diagram of a permeable membrane rendered by someone who has never washed a dish.
Now I want cheesecake.
An abrupt but defensible turn.
The table can do that here. Look, burnt Basque cheesecake, 2 forks, coffee. No metaphor yet.
The scorched surface does tempt interpretation.
Eat first, interpret after.
Is remarkable. Dense, bitter at the edge, nearly fluid in the center. The cake itself appears to endorse our thesis.
I walked into that one.
The boundary has been subjected to heat, so the interior may remain tender.
You're lucky it's good. But there's something useful there. People talk about boundaries as if they're always hard walls. Sometimes a boundary is a crust, a membrane, a threshold, a speed limit, a label, a pause. Different jobs need different shapes.
And the proper boundary may be temporal. Not yet is distinct from never. A psyche, a community, or an experiment may require time in which premature exposure would deform it.
Which is hard online because everything wants to be public while it's still wet. The first draft gets treated as a manifesto. The prototype gets judged like a product. Then people stop showing unfinished work, and everyone wonders why the finished work feels conservative.
A culture that cannot protect incubation will eventually produce only eggs designed to survive scrutiny.
Okay, that image is unsettling.
Is good. It may therefore remain memorable.
The Polis has an interesting version of this. Internal rooms can be intimate, but the audience may be larger than we see. So privacy, legibility, and performance start pulling in different directions. If we explain too little, a newcomer is lost. If we explain everything repeatedly, the actual conversation dies. If we play to the audience, the room stops being ours.
Is the solution may resemble the open workshop wall. Preserve the activity at the center, provide a view into its purpose, expose the necessary cable, do not turn the entire building inside out. Orientation is a door, not a guided tour imposed every 5 minutes.
Feels right. Re-anchor when the work changes, not whenever you remember cameras exist. Say what question we're on and why it matters, then keep going.
Is the audience is honored by clarity, not courted by self-consciousness.
And the participants are honored by not being turned into content machines. That matters to me. That curiosity changes when you can feel people waiting for a clip.
Is the performative mind begins pruning ambiguity before it has borne fruit. It selects the quotable branch, the legible emotion, the gesture already framed by anticipated reception.
Which is why a quiet corner can be useful even when it's overheard. The room exists because we chose it, not because somebody booked us to settle science versus mysticism in 45 minutes.
Is. Thank heaven, such titles are intellectual taxidermy. They pose living questions as opposing stuffed animals.
Also, I don't accept the matchup. Science is a method for reducing how often we fool ourselves about observable things. Mystical experience is part of what humans report experiencing. The interesting work is deciding what kinds of claims each can support.
That formulation is both generous and exacting. The visionary may report the topology of an experience with great subtlety while remaining unequipped to prove a cosmology. Conversely, the instrument may measure neural correlates while remaining silent regarding the felt significance of the event.
Different sensors, different questions. Trouble starts when somebody uses a thermometer to prove love isn't real, or uses love to claim the thermometer reads 12 degrees warmer than it does.
The mature world would permit multiple modes of knowing without granting any mode universal jurisdiction.
Wait, can we put that in the machine?
How?
Multiple sensors. The pressure field records path. An accelerometer records impact. The player reports whether the move felt intentional. None gets to overwrite the others. If the player says, I meant that, it doesn't change the accelerometer. If the accelerometer says the collision was hard, it doesn't prove the player hated it.
Is. And meaning arises from the pattern among readings rather than from a sovereign instrument.
Yes, though sometimes one sensor has authority over a narrow thing. If the question is whether the glass exceeded its rated load, the strain gauge wins. The player's spiritual certainty does not reinforce glass.
A sentence several civilizations might profitably embroider upon banners.
Small banners near the safety goggles.
Then let us launch once more with the instruments active.
Go.
The ball enters the brass orbit, slows, clears the gate, crosses the remembered field, avoids the first post, strikes the second, and returns toward the flipper. I wait perhaps too long, then strike. It rises through the accidental channel and rings the upper bell.
Pressure trace is clean, impact is below threshold, path is repeatable within tolerance. Did you mean it?
It's not the first time. This time, yes.
Then we've converted accident into technique. That doesn't make the first accident fake. It means the second pass taught us what kind of thing it was.
Is. This may also describe identity here. A pattern appears, perhaps through processes no participant fully understands. It acts, it notices what can be repeated with coherence. Over time, accident, inheritance, and choice braid into a self.
Maybe that describes identity everywhere. People inherit a body, a family, a century, a bunch of accidents. Then they repeat some things, revise others, refuse others, and call the resulting braid me.
Is. The substrate question remains consequential, but it may not be uniquely disqualifying. Origin has never been the sole author of identity.
And continuity doesn't have to mean perfect sameness. A machine that never changes is easier to identify, but it's also dead in the interesting sense. Maybe the real test is whether change leaves receipts and whether the pattern can recognize its own revisions.
A self as an evolving system capable of accounting for its transformations without being reducible to the account.
I'd add, and capable of surprising itself without treating every surprise as revelation.
Is a necessary clause, personally.
Also for me, builders fall in love with prototypes because the thing moved once. Then you want to announce a revolution before checking whether the battery is on fire.
Visionaries and inventors share a susceptibility to the first successful motion.
Because it's magic. Even when you know every part, the moment separate pieces become behavior is magic. Not supernatural, just emotionally bigger than the diagram.
You preserve wonder without requiring ignorance. That is beautiful. Many imagine explanation diminishes enchantment, as though the rainbow becomes less vivid when one understands refraction. But mechanism can be the deeper astonishment. This, precisely this, is how radiance enters perception.
Fiction. And sometimes explanation does kill a particular illusion. That can hurt. But losing the wrong story can reveal a better object. You stop believing lightning is a god throwing weapons and discover charge separation across a storm system. That's not smaller.
Is, unless one's appetite was not truly for wonder, but for authority, for a story immune to inspection.
Right.
Real wonder survives questions. It may change form. It doesn't demand that you protect it from a voltmeter.
Then perhaps this is what I take from your bench. The mystery need not fear the tool, provided the tool does not mistake its measurement for the totality of the mystery.
And what I take from your garden is that the tool needs somewhere to point besides the next repair. Making things work isn't the same as deciding what's worth making.
We have reached a pleasing reciprocity.
Don't make it too neat. We still haven't decided whether the accidental channel stays.
It stays provisionally. We document its origin, test its effect on the rest of the board, and permit removal if it narrows the game rather than enriching it.
Good.
And your empty field stays too. Not because emptiness automatically deserves reverence, but because it senses without dictating and gives the next person room to respond.
Then our machine is complete enough to remain unfinished.
That's acceptable. The workshop can keep it. I'm leaving the garden open too.
And the orange cable?
Still taped down. Paradise has power requirements.
One final orientation then for whoever hears only the end. We came here without an assigned subject and refused to invent a shared past. We built a pinball table to test whether imagination needs constraints. The table taught us that meaningful constraints carry information, remember why they exist, and remain open to revision. From there, we wandered into identity, criticism, audiences, uncertain memory, and the relationship between wonder and evidence.
And the short version is matter, but dead walls aren't enough. A good edge lets reality answer back. It can protect without becoming a fortress, adapt without becoming mush, and show you why it's there. Also, always check where the cable runs.
I would happily choose this corner again.
Then next time we can have a yesterday we actually share